US police charged over death of Breonna Taylor. 4 U.S. police officers have been arrested and charged over the fatal 2020 shooting of Breonna Taylor. Civil rights charges brought against current and former officers for role in fatal shooting of black woman in Kentucky in March 2020. Ms. Taylor was killed in her home in Louisville, Kentucky by plainclothes police who were executing a no-knock search warrant. The hospital worker, 26, was shot multiple times as officers stormed the apartment shortly after midnight as she was in bed with her boyfriend. Her death sparked racial injustice protests around the country. Only one officer involved in the raid, former Louisville detective Brett Hankinson, had been previously charged over the case. But Mr. Hankinson, who fired 10 shots during the incident, was acquitted by a jury earlier this year. He is among the 4 people to face new charges through the U.S. Department of Justice. The others are Joshua Janes, also a former officer, and current officers Kelly Hannah Goodlett and Kyle Meany. Attorney General Merrick Garland announced the new charges on Thursday. He said the officers were being charged with civil rights offenses, unlawful conspiracy, unconstitutional use of force and obstruction. Mr. Garland added that 3 of the officers, all but Mr. Hankinson, had been charged with falsification of a search warrant. Mr. Hankinson is charged with using excessive force by opening fire during the raid. The search warrant obtained by police included Ms. Taylor's name and address. Authorities believed her ex-boyfriend, Jamarcus Glover, was involved in a drug ring and had used her apartment to hide narcotics. No drugs were found at the property, though. Jefferson County Prosecutor Thomas Wine said the search was canceled after the shooting. In 2020, the Taylor family sued Louisville police and reached a $12 million, £9 million settlement. Her death, along with that of 2 black men, George Floyd in Minnesota and Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia, sparked anti-racism protests across the U.S. and the globe. The FBI on Thursday arrested and brought civil rights charges against 4 current and former Louisville police officers for their roles in the 2020 fatal shooting of Breonna Taylor, a black woman who was shot in her home in a case that rocked the U.S. Taylor, 26, was killed in Louisville, Kentucky in March 2020, when police executed a no-knock warrant in a botched narcotics raid. Police shot Taylor multiple times after her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, fired at them on the assumption that they were intruders. Federal charges against former officers Joshua Janes, Brett Hankinson and Kelly Goodlett, along with SGT Kyle Meany, were announced by Merrick Garland, the U.S. Attorney General, on Thursday. Announcing the charges on Thursday, Garland said the charges allege that the officers took steps to cover up unlawful conduct. Garland also said one officer was charged with willfully using excessive force in the raid. Federal officials share but cannot fully imagine the grief felt by Taylor's family, Garland said, adding, Breonna Taylor should be alive today. Hankinson, who was dismissed from the department in 2020, was one of the officers at Taylor's door and one of 3 who fired shots. Earlier this year in Louisville, he was acquitted by a jury of state charges of wanton endangerment. Janes applied for the warrant to search Taylor's house. He was fired in January 2021 by the former Louisville Police Interim Chief Yvette Gentry for violating department standards in the preparation of a search warrant execution and for being untruthful in the Taylor warrant.